think you have to click like yes, accept.
Yeah. Oh, that's like, I guess that's a thing now.
Yeah, you have to consent to being recorded.
I have actually noticed, have you noticed there's like different consent policies now on like different websites? Like they're getting more.
I mean, consent is a good thing.
I like it. Yeah, no, I like it. I think it's a good, I'm like, take it as a positive sign. I love it.
So yeah, I was going to post this live on my YouTube channel, but that wasn't working. The technology was frustrating the hell out of me. So for now, I'm just recording it and then I'll upload this later. But yeah, thanks for coming on and being my first guest. Woo!
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me here. It's awesome. I love supporting people, and it's been so exciting to watch your journey. And I actually do. I already was like, I want to ask you about Costa Rica because it looks so just beautiful. And like, it just seemed like you were with a really good group of people and like you just had an awesome time.
Yeah, it was amazing. The energies there are just so alive and abundant just because there's so much like plant life and animals. Like sometimes you'd hear when we were at the coast, you'd hear howler monkeys in the morning, like in the treetops.
Wow.
It was crazy. So it was so interesting because I came back and I was coming back with one of the girls that had been to the retreat and traveling with me, and we flew into Dallas together and then split off. But we get to Dallas and we're in the airport and we have a layover and we're just like looking at each other like, what is this?
I bet Costa Rica looks like paradise, and then you come back here and it's like,
I mean, there's definitely pros and cons. It's
sure.
not, I don't know if any place is like this, euphoria paradise place. It definitely has some downsides to it too. But I did really enjoy the energies. It was just the energies were very alive and vibrant, and I like that because I think you can do a lot of different things with that. If you want to
Yes.
create, if you want to transform, if you want to heal. So yeah, we came back and we're sitting in the Dallas airport and we're just like, man, everybody's dead here. They're just dead.
Yeah, it's so funny too, because that is the exact same one of the reasons that compels me to go to Mexico. And that's why I love Mexico so much, because same thing, like super high energy. I feel like super vibrant, like lots of community. People are so friendly. Like I just felt so alive there. And then literally same thing. I came back here and I was like, it's just like,
Ew.
it's just, yeah, it's just like, I don't know, just like for sure. Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah, what part of Mexico?
I went to Cancun and then I went to Chichen Itza, and like where I'm looking at going now is Puerto Morales, and just literally like renting Airbnbs for like a month at a time and just going from Airbnb to Airbnb in Mexico until I have enough money to get a house there, and like that's just the plans. So,
Ooh, that sounds super nice. I
yeah,
love
I'm
that.
excited.
I love that. And I like how you're gonna travel around to figure out like where exactly you want to be too. Because I think
Yeah.
that's a mistake that I've made in the past is I think sometimes like rushing into, oh, I want to live here, I want to move to this place, and then
Yes.
you know you're like, oh, just kidding.
Yeah. Yep. You're like, oh, I actually just like being on vacation here, not really
Yeah,
like
yeah.
living here. Hmm.
Yeah, like I definitely, now that I've been through some of those lessons, when I go visit a place, I do think about living there and all the pros and cons. And like with Costa Rica, I don't know if I'd necessarily want to live there.
Hmm.
Um the roads are a little dicey, like you definitely have to have four-wheel drive. And the other the other downside, and I guess I could live, but you can't get anything mailed there. There's no, you can't
Hmm.
order anything online. You can't just like go on Amazon and do like, you can't do any of that.
Right. That's
Mhm.
so interesting. Like just thinking about like literally not having that as an option. That's so interesting because that's so widely available here. And it's like you choose of your own free will to not, but like living in a place where it's just like, no, nobody does that. It's like, huh.
So if you're thinking about moving to Costa Rica, see if you can live without online ordering.
Yeah.
That's what
I
I
have never even been to Costa Rica myself. I have wanted to go though, because I've just heard a lot of good things, like literally the same things you're saying. Um, and it's just, I mean, how can you go wrong with like who's like, oh, I don't like clear water. I don't like trees. Like I don't like, I mean, it's like, how could it not be enjoyable? Like,
I guess it depends on the person. It depends on when you go. And I mean, I was there during the rainy season. And so, I mean, it wasn't that bad to me. It's like Florida rain, but maybe some
right.
people won't like that. Or during the dry season, it can get really hot. So and you do have to immerse yourself in the culture and learn the language and, integrate yourself into that. So I think if you don't do that, you might not.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I know too, even for myself, I am super sensitive to temperatures and I'm on like the other end of the spectrum where like if it's too cold, like I'm miserable. So
Really.
yeah, like I can't, dude. I'm such a baby. I can't. Like I'm just like, give me a blanket if it's below 60 degrees. Like it's yeah.
But hot you're good with.
I'm better with hot. Dude, I'm so fucking picky, but I like dry heat. It was just funny because I'm moving to Mexico and it's like humid. Like where I'm looking at it's like it's gonna be humid, but I'm looking at that also because of my cat. He has asthma, and so that actually is a lot better for his lungs, which I never knew. I just never knew that. I've never like had any experiences with asthma. And then I was reading about it and I was like, yeah, it's better to live in a humid environment. So I'm like, all right, dude, well, great. Then you're gonna like Mexico. So
That's super exciting. Oh, I'm so excited for you.
thank you.
And then I can totally come visit you also.
Yes. Yes. I'm so excited too because it's so just like how I'm doing with my business and everything right now. And then the cost of living down there, it's like you can live like so, like it's so much less expensive. It's crazy. Like even when I was looking at renting places in Puerto Morales, it was like 2-bedroom studio with a living room, kitchen, and a bathroom for like 530 a month. And then you have like a pool. And it's just like, that's insane. Like that's so awesome. So
Yeah, I have heard that about down there. So that's
yeah.
a total benefit. So I mean, I guess if you can work remotely and be a digital nomad, then why not, right?
Yeah,
And I love
exactly.
that. I love that too, that you have this like it's like I think for a lot of people, the sense or the idea of doing that is really scary. Just
Yeah.
like moving to a different country and starting new and leaving everybody behind.
Hmm.
So would you say like in the past, like a past version of yourself, you might have been scared to do that?
I, I feel like because that was it's not, it wasn't a different country, but it almost felt like it to me when I moved from Pennsylvania to Utah because I didn't know anybody. So this was like 4 or 5 years ago now. I didn't know anybody. I met my roommate on Craigslist. Like I had nothing except for like 2 suitcases. And I was like, okay, bye everybody on the East Coast. Like I need to literally, it was like starting my healing journey and like moving far away from everybody and starting my life over. And I didn't know anybody. So I think without that experience, I'd probably be more freaked out, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like, everyone's scared of different things because of their life experience more. And so much of my life from a young age had taught me about detachment and loss. And so it's actually harder and more scary, I think, for me to do things that require like um, a long term commitment or something somewhere rather than just like jumping around and doing new things. Like I'm almost like more comfortable in that. So
Mhm.
yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if I would. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a little bit of nervousness. I would say I would for sure be nervous going to a new country if it was a lot different, where I feel like Mexico, there's still enough similarities and things where it's like I can gradually kind of learn Spanish. Like it's not going to be this huge like culture shock where I'm going to like somewhere in Africa where there's like I'm in a tribe or something. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like maybe that would be a little more jarring for me, but this I don't know. I'm just pretty comfortable with it.
Yeah, it feels good. Feels good. I mean, that's what I think is the important thing, that it feels good and it it feels aligned, and it feels like, you know, in your heart and your soul, you're supposed to, you know. But yeah,
For
that's super
sure.
exciting. That's super exciting. So tell, because I know what you do, but for people that are
Yeah,
watching, tell them more about what you do.
sure. Yeah. So right now, like I am an artist, like I'll always be an artist, but right now I've been focusing mostly on my Akashic Records work. So that really just involves taking people on these, I call it like a multi-dimensional healing journey, because I used to just call it an Akashic Records reading, but I'm like, it's not a reading of your records. It's like we're going in, it's like a whole experience. It's a whole, so it's like I changed the name on that, but it's really just taking people into pretty much all the available information about themselves. The Akashic Records holds like every incarnation that you've ever experienced, whether it's human or non-human, and then just all the galactic history as well. So there's so much information there. I call it like the real internet, because it's like the internet is like censored, you know, and stuff, but this is like the uncensored, unfiltered, like in the raw, like internet basically. So it's just been amazing. It's been so, like, since I started doing this, even just on my own, it's changed my life because it has changed my perspective so much. And so much of the information that has come through in my experiences there has been both a mixture of like things that confirm these deep intuitive knowings that I had that I never trusted. So it's been like super empowering, combined with shifting my perspective with like newer information that I didn't know that's just like mind blowing. So, and just being able to facilitate that for people and seeing their reactions, like so many of my clients, like there's a lot of crying, you know, it's like this intense like thing that we're doing together, and they come out of it just feeling so like I guess the most common feedback I get is like energetically almost like refreshed or like new, like it just strips away so much of kind of like the suffering and confusion and clarity. I mean, not lack of clarity, like around people's experiences. So yeah, it's been awesome. It's been
So
really
kind of
awesome.
like a reboot.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so necessary to do that because it's so easy to just get lost in day-to-day stuff. Like even with how much I do the records work, I see how easy it is for me to still get lost into it. So it just makes me think like people that aren't doing this kind of work, it's like probably even more for them. And so it's just really like centering and balancing and grounding. And it's so, all the information that comes through, it's so just like loving that it's just, yeah, it's just like, wow. So it's been awesome. I really love doing it. I've been doing it for, I mean, not even, I had kind of just gotten into it, I think, when you visited me at Christmas. Like I think it's still within my first year of doing it, but it's just been so amazing. And then the more you do it, you're like, you don't necessarily have to go through the same process anymore. So I used to enter the records, I used to have to go into this whole like ritual kind of. And now it's like I don't really need to do that because I've done it so much that I'm just kind of already always in it.
Mm-hmm.
So
So it's
that's
quicker and
been cool.
easier for you to access.
Yeah, yeah. So that's
Oh, that sounds amazing. So probably with that talent that you have now, you can get more done for people.
yes, I feel that. It's like, and that is also what I love about people doing this work for themselves is that just like anything, practice makes perfect, or that saying, you know, the more you do it, the deeper you're going, like
Mhm.
dimensionally. And so it's like, first you're seeing like this, then you're seeing like this, then it's like, well, yeah, it's like you tap into more and more and more levels and things. And it's just like, oh my God, it's endless. Like, and you already know it's endless. You know, everything's infinite, but experiencing that infinity is just like mind
Yeah,
blowing.
there's really no words.
Yeah, it's so true.
There's no words. I think the human language is just too limited when it comes to trying to like convey some information. It's
I
just some
agree.
things that have to be felt and experienced.
Totally.
So, so besides this amazing work that you do with people, like what are some of your favorite things that you've been doing lately? Like what's something that you've been really into or something you've been obsessed with?
Okay, so this is might sound like so silly, but I've literally been obsessed with, because I don't have a car, like ordering different food from all these different local restaurants, like and getting it delivered and like trying it and then like writing my own reviews in my mind of like what I think about it. Because I feel like I kind of almost want to do like a foodie blog or something, maybe like just for fun, like not anything serious, but like I just really enjoy it. Like I love, because it's such a fun, and I was kind of trying to figure out like, oh, why do I love this so much? Just because I was curious, you know, and I realized it was actually a really good practice of being in my body and grounding myself, because
Mhm.
I'm focusing on the taste, the textures, you know, and so it's like it's a more fun way for me to ground, because like I get tired of the breath work. Like I'm like, oh, I gotta do fucking breath work again. Like it gets boring. So I'm like, I'll eat some food. Like that's like a more fun way to do it. So I've been super obsessed with that. And I've also been obsessed with just, I mean, I'm always obsessed with dancing, but just again, getting back more into that and using that as like again, that's like a way to channel energy, you know, and
Mhm.
really like just noticing that if I don't move, it's during the day, it's not good. So just kind of again finding something fun to like meet that need. So
Yeah, I know
what about
dancing
you?
is one of your favorite things to do.
It is. It is. What about you? What have you been obsessed with or obsessing over?
Well, when I was in Costa Rica, I was obsessing over these all the plants, all like the monstera plants, especially.
Yes. So beautiful.
I have a photo with one that I think I had posted on my Facebook, but it's like
Yes, I love it.
the thing is like this big. I mean, it's like the leaf of the thing. It's huge.
Insane.
And yeah, I love monsteras. Um and just eating the delicious food that we had at the retreat. We had a chef making food for us, and it was all vegan, and it was, you know, plant-based, and he would just do these amazing things with it. So it really inspired me. I'm like, I need to step up my game. Like I because I had been making these like super basic like basic bitch meals where it's like potatoes and kale and, you know, maybe some beans, and it's like, that's
Yeah.
no, that doesn't cut it. Like, you know, I think that it's really important, especially when, you know, we're nourishing our bodies, that, you know, we're also enjoying the experience, like you said, right? Like the way that it looks, the presentation, and like the texture, and all of those things go into it. Like I want to look at something and want to eat it,
Yes.
not just be like, oh, okay, this is like some fuel for my body.
Right.
So
Right.
I've been trying to make my food a little bit better, and
Love
um
it.
so that's kind of what I've been into lately. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I want to hear about, if you want to share like where your business is kind of going, or like what your, because I only kind of, I like, it's been cool because it has had this like mysterious kind of allure to it, because it's like Tigress Transcendence. And like it kind of, I'm like, what is it? Like, what
What
are
is
we doing?
that?
Like, yeah, like there's definitely like this magnetism to the branding and the name of it, which I love. Like, I think that's awesome. That has like an energetically, it energetically feels really powerful. I like it, and totally an embodiment of that cat like energy too. It's just perfect.
Yes. Well, I'm loving that you're loving that. And coming from you, it means a lot.
Oh,
But yeah, I haven't really, you know, I haven't really come out yet with explaining, but I guess this would be a great time.
well,
Um,
if you don't want to, that's okay too,
oh
either
yeah,
way.
no, I'm totally fine with it. So I wanted to embody the big cat energy because the tiger is like my primary main spirit animal. Got back there.
Oh,
Um,
hey.
I mean, when I was like 4 or 5, and my mom was like, "What do you want to be for Halloween?" I was like, "I want to be a tiger." Like, I just have always liked the tiger. And there's something about the tiger for me that they're so like beautiful and majestic and regal, and you know how much power that they have, and they don't have to show you. You know, they can just be like laying there, and you know, they don't have to do anything. So that's what I think, you know, draws me so much. And I think that's with cats in general, right? Because I mean, I've seen videos of just regular like house cats, like it's a house cat versus an alligator, and the cat wins. You're just like, yeah, cats are pretty badass. Um, so so yeah, that's where the tigress comes from, and I want to work specifically with women. So that's where the word tigress comes from. Not to say that, you know, the men aren't important. I've just, that's what I feel really drawn to do.
Yeah.
And then the transcendence piece is, it's really focused around transcending the fears, the traumas, the limiting beliefs, the old stories, the old paradigms, all of that stuff that really doesn't work for us anymore. And we can transcend that and step into our power and embrace, you know, living in infinite possibilities, like you said, and being the creator of our own lives. You know, we get to choose. Like, it's so
Yes.
easy to get stuck in those old mindsets, like, you know, if something happens in our lives, and the mind tends to go to like, okay, what's the quickest and safest and like easiest option, like what is that, right? um but that might not be the thing that your soul wants to do. So, you know, taking the time to pause and really reflect and go inside and use your own intuition and discernment to figure out what's best for you. Because I mean, and you know this, nobody else knows what's best for you besides you. And you're the only
Yeah.
one that can come to those conclusions. And so um, I'm more of in a supportive and empowering role for women. Like, I'm going to be helping them to still come to their own decisions. And also accessing their gifts, their power, and their own healing abilities. So, yeah, because I think that the transformations in our own experiences and stories that we go through, like part of the reason why we go through that is because we can help other people do the same thing.
Yes. I totally agree.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
necessary.
And it's just in the beginning phases. You know, I have a website now, which people can access off my Facebook page.
Love
um,
it.
I think I've also linked to it on my YouTube channel as well. But yeah, you can see more about me and my services. So I do offer the empowerment coaching, but I also offer integration support around plant medicines, which I think
I
is
love that so much.
very, very crucial and important. And, you know, I would say for anyone who's considering working with plant medicines, especially the more intense medicines, like, for example, ayahuasca, definitely set yourself up with someone who can support you after the journey. Um, it doesn't, I mean, anyone who is, you know, specialized in integration support. And sometimes it's not your therapist.
Yep. Yep.
Sometimes it's
I
not your
love,
therapist.
I seriously just love that so much because I feel like that was what I was for a little bit. It's funny because I never really got into the plant medicine community. Like, I just did things on my own because of what I observed so much from the outside, which I feel like was that lack of integration. And so, like, the fact that so many more people are stepping up to be like in that role, I think that's like just so amazing because it really is like you can have such a, I actually haven't personally, but I know people that have had such like an experience, that they needed to, like they needed that support there, and like not having that support there, like did cause them issues. And you can kind of see like how it did. And so I love that you're fulfilling like such an essential role. That's so amazing. I've never done ayahuasca, honestly, though. So like mine was just mushrooms and,
Yeah. And it's not for
DMT.
everyone. It's not for everyone. I will say that you have to, you know, you really have to be called to do that stuff. And it, you know, there's different tools for different people, and everyone's body chemistry is so different. You know,
Right.
there's not this one size fits all approach.
Do
Mhm.
you have like if you want to share, do you have like a favorite plant medicine or like, I mean, maybe not favorite, but I guess maybe one that you called, yeah, you're like, I already know.
Hmm. I'd say that I say my favorite thing personally to work with is not a plant medicine. It's a psychedelic though, is LSD.
Uh-huh.
That's my personal favorite.
Girl, love it.
Like I know.
LSD is
Um,
so fun.
yeah, LSD. I enjoy that because um I mean, I feel like with me with the plant medicines, it was a very intentional for healing purposes. And no judgment on people who continue to work with it. Like I know there are ayahuasca churches where people go every weekend and drink, and if they feel that that's right for them, that's fine. But for me personally, you know, I've felt that I've gotten to a certain place where I'm taking a break from
Yes.
those. And not to say that I won't ever return to them again,
Right.
right? But yeah, I'm just taking a little break. Whereas LSD for me is a little more gentle. We're not like ayahuasca is a very intense ride, and there's no getting off. And even with like psilocybin mushrooms, I find sometimes like the psilocybin, it is its own entity. It's its own spirit, and sometimes it has a mind of its own. And sometimes it like, you want to go over here, and it's like, oh, let's go this way.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yes, yes. That
yeah.
one's actually my favorite. If I had to pick a favorite, my favorite's definitely mushrooms. Oh my God, I love mushrooms. Like there for me, it's like I mean, I haven't experimented with this yet. I wonder if I did like microdose
Mm-hmm.
every week or something like that, if that would be helpful for me. But definitely like doing a dose like every 3 months or so is definitely for me like so good for my brain. It just puts me because it is so much like that for me too, where it's like all about letting go and surrendering and just like doing that is so powerful for me that it just like resets so much of like because I'm so open, I get caught up in all this like energetic bullshit. Like I really do. And then I don't even realize it. I still do clearing and all this stuff in my regular day, but it's like you don't realize how deeply things like get in you, like really, at least for me, until I do something like the mushrooms. And then it's like coming out of that, I'm like purified. I'm just like, oh my God, like I remembered what's
Mhm.
important. Like I connected back to myself on a deeper level. Like it really feels like going home to me. It's a very like
Sounds like it's your medicine. Yeah.
yeah, it really feels like that for me. And like, even the few times I've ended up being like a shaman for someone in those experiences without even like meaning to be, it's just like a natural thing for me where it like was I could tell I'm like, yeah, this is like,
Uh-huh.
this is it. This is the
Uh-huh.
thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely. I could totally see you. I mean, I think just being able to hold space is the most
yes.
important thing, which you can definitely do. And not everybody is capable of doing that. So you definitely want to make sure if you're sitting with someone that they can hold space for you. And I know people say that all the time and throw it around. So like, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? Why don't you tell me?
I feel like I totally agree with you. First of all, it's thrown around all the time. And it's so funny because even the other day I had a conversation with someone and they're like, yeah, what does it even mean? And I'm like, yeah, exactly. It's a good point. Like so many of these words are thrown around, but nobody ever like gets into them. So for me, holding space is like really being present. It's presence combined with non-judgment. So it's just like the compassionate witness. So I feel like a lot of all of my space holding really doesn't involve me saying much at all. And if it is me saying anything, it's me just like almost like directly, I mean, gently like guiding or pushing, like, I don't even want to say pushing, but like, I guess, for example, like sometimes in the mushroom experiences, it's like you can tell that someone, you could steer something in a way that would really help someone in a positive way. So you kind of will positively say something that's encouraging to maybe get them to look at something they're expressing differently. There's a small aspect of that, but most of my space holding, I feel like, is really just witnessing in a non-judgmental way, allowing someone to be where they are and just really feel everything because so much that's what people need is they just need that space to feel loved while they're going through whatever they're going through, and that really fulfills that I feel like part where people feel like they don't belong or like they're rejected or they're unloved. So you can like meet that need in that really vulnerable place. And like that is what will facilitate that healing for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And being comfortable with the uncomfortable, like being comfortable with the feelings that they express, or if they need to rage or if they need to wail or scream or whatever it is, like allowing that and being comfortable with that, being okay with that. And I think we can really only be okay with it if we've been there ourselves.
Totally.
you know
Totally.
yeah. So if you've only hit, if you've been kind of like snorkeling in the shallow waters and you haven't really, haven't went deep down there, you might not be able to really hold space for a person like that.
Definitely. I think too, it's like people need to have a strong sense of self. And that's why, like, I will even say, I've noticed for me, it's so much easier for me to hold space with anyone unless I'm in a romantic relationship with them. And then that sense of
Oh,
self is, and then it comes a whole different thing where all of a sudden my amazing space holding abilities, I'm like, where'd those go? Because I'm getting offended right now. I'm taking things personally, like instead of just, doing what I always do. So and it's funny you brought that up, the whole holding space, because I was actually thinking about that recently, just that, how it's harder to do that in those sorts of dynamics for me. It's just interesting.
yeah, it can definitely be harder, because those are our most intimate relationships, like where we get
Mhm.
typically where we get the most vulnerable, right?
Yes.
And it's like, oh, we're letting somebody see all these different sides of me and opening up. And yeah, and I think a lot of the times our relationship, if we're not, well, sometimes even if we are conscious of it, our relationship with our partner can mimic the relationship we had with like our parents, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
So maybe we're looking for the love that we didn't get from our parents, and we're looking for that love in this other person. And so yeah, there's this phrase, or this term called interdependence. So there's interdependence and codependence. So just being able to be two separate entities and not being too attached to the other person. um
Yes.
and I haven't even been in a relationship. It's been a couple years for me, honestly, and this has been an intentional thing. So yeah, I mean, I can only speak from what I know and what I've seen, and I know being in it is like a totally different, you know different
Yeah.
experience.
It is. I was actually also laughing about that the other day, like how it's because I've done this before where I'm like, you think you're at a certain place or whatever. You're like, oh, I'm here. Whenever you get in a relationship, you're like, did I even do
Oh,
anything? Did I even do any work? Like,
that
I
happens
feel
to
like
me all the time.
so,
that
right? It's so
that's like
funny.
daily life for me over here.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. No, but that does happen for me. That not being single, being not in a relationship, like it happens, maybe I'm triggered by family members or like my
yeah, family
friends,
gets me
or
sometimes.
all kinds of things, happening in my life where I'm like, wait, I thought I thought we talked about this already.
You're like, didn't I learn this lesson? Are you sure? Are you sure that I'm? Yeah,
No.
I know.
Um, you know, I'm deciding if I want to share this recent um,
It's up
you
to you.
know,
I'm open.
yeah, so this is an edge for me because this is super vulnerable and not something I would typically share.
Love it.
If it was just me and you, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I had another lesson come in. I had a repeat lesson come in recently with my
Okay.
family.
Mm.
And it happened in a different way, but it was the same basic thing. Um, and the first time it happened when I was in college. And I was living with my parents in college, and they basically, because of some issues I was having with my sister, they kicked me out of the house. Um, and then I'm living here currently, right? And it happened again. It happened again. And I'm like, wow, this is so interesting. This is like the second time this same thing has happened. And I'm
Mm,
like, okay, obviously I needed to have this lesson a second time. Like
mm-hmm,
I didn't learn from the first time,
mm-hmm.
right? So it needed to come in again. But I've been noticing, and I don't know about you, but I've been really amazed at how quickly I've been able to process and move through things. Like if I get
Yes.
triggered or if something's happening and I'm going through a difficult situation, it's still it still hurts. There's still emotional pain. I'm still allowing myself to sit with that and acknowledge it. It's still there, but I'm just amazed at like how much more quickly I'm able to move through this now. It's amazing.
Yes. It is. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like it is. And that too is like a pat on the back for yourself because it's how I always associate that anyways. Like there's less of an attachment there. Like the deeper the attachment to something is, the harder it is to move through. And so when you can process things quicker, that means like you're breaking away from the attachment to those things. So it is like you are learning and it is, you are, doing better or however you want to put that, but it's just, it's like a process. And honestly, from what I've observed in my own life and with other people, family lessons are repeated a lot because they're like the first kind of like original core things. So I frankly don't know. I don't think I can think of anyone that's been like, yep, we'll learn this lesson once with the family. It's like usually there's a lot of like cycling,
Yeah.
even in my experience, it was so similar to yours in my own way, where it was like literally when I moved back in with my parents, it was the same thing where I was like, oh my God, did nothing change? Did nothing change? Am I back in time? Like I literally almost started, I'm like, was there a timeline switch? And then I moved back in time because there is no fucking difference, like none, like zero. And it was so, and I even got back into the abusive relationship I had been in. Like I was like, I'm insane. I'm doing the same things over again. Why am I doing this? And it was like me watching myself, observing myself, doing these same things again. And it wasn't until I left all of that again and moved to New York that things started shifting and that my parents actually started coming around. Something happened after that second time that broke those karmic patterns and dynamics for good. But I did literally feel insane. I was like, I'm doing the exact same things. It's all the exact same. So like,
Yeah.
I know how you feel.
It can feel like regression. Like,
Yes,
and that's a scary feeling.
it is. Oh my
Scary
God, it
feeling. It's like,
is.
wait, am I going backwards?
Yes,
Yeah, because
it
we feel
is.
good about ourselves. It's like, oh, we're moving forward, we're making progress, we're doing good. And it's like, wait, am I like going back into the hole? Yeah, it can be a really scary feeling, but I know like initially on the outside, it can seem like that, but that's not actually what it is.
Yes, yes.
And, you know, now I've gotten to a point where I view, this is basically the universe is giving me a nudge, like, you need to go, you need to move on now, and
Yeah.
so it's actually, it's probably, even though it hurts, is what needs to happen right now. And,
Hmm.
I totally have accepted it. Um,
Do you
so
know where you're gonna, or what you're
no, I
of?
actually don't.
That's okay.
Actually, I don't. So there's a community down in Costa Rica called Pachamama. They're an intentional community. And I was planning to go there because the last that I spoke to them, this was a few months ago, the last I spoke to them, they said they were closed for the rainy season because I was going to go earlier. And they said, but you can come in November. Well, I wasn't sure yet what I was doing. I should have snagged my spot then, but I guess they've filled up and it's become really
Mhm.
popular. So I'm actually not sure what I'm going to be doing. I might, and this is a very recent, like, this is very fresh and new. Like, I haven't even had a lot of time to process this yet, but
Yeah.
I might, go back and get another job temporarily, while I
Mhm.
figure out my next step, or, give my business some time to generate. I'm not really
Mhm.
sure. I'm still kind of
That's
considering
okay. You'll figure
options
it'll come
around
to
it.
you. You'll know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But being comfortable with the unknown, that's a new thing for me,
Mm.
because the previous version of me would have been freaking out right now. Like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I would have had so much anxiety. Um, but now I'm like, I know that it's going to be okay. I know it's going to
Yes.
be fine. Whatever happens, happens. So,
Yes,
yeah.
for sure. Plus there's always, I mean, there's just so many options. Like that's always what helps me too. If I get freaked out about anything, is just reminding myself like there's so many options. Like we live in an abundant world and there's so many like even if I got kicked out right now or something, it's like I could spend literally $120 on a plane ticket to Mexico. Like it's that cheap. It's like all I need is a passport. Like there's not all this COVID stuff. Like so
Well, for
even
now,
like what was that?
I said for now.
Yeah. And like, so just things like that, where it's like, or just, there's always people on like Facebook and like in your community that like they know people. Like there's always so many avenues of things working out. It's like they really can't not, double negative, but yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. um, so yes, but speaking of travel, and there's some crazy stuff going on right now. I've heard talks of like vaccine passports, and I'm
Yeah.
not really sure. I don't really watch the news. Um, so I try to go online once in a while to see if there's any important information that I might need to know, concerning
Mhm.
travel or what's going on in the world. But I don't really stay super in that, you know,
No, me
I don't,
either.
I don't, I
It's
don't feel that it
manipulated.
really does me any good to.
No, yeah, same here. I mean, it's not even because the thing is, even beyond it being like, oh, it's negative or whatever, it's just not even truthful information. Like, I can't even tell you how many times I've looked into something on my own that the mainstream media has said has happened and it has not happened.
Hmm.
So I'm like, why am I going to just waste my time looking at false information that has a negative overtone to it? It's not like I don't even know if it's true or not. So why am I going to, And so, I mean, I know there is like crazy stuff going on around the world to a degree for sure, but I also wonder just how much of even that is true and like what things are actually, because even again it's like I posted a video the other day and then it's like just something from, it's a clip someone took from something else, it's not even the video of something actually going on. So it's like people, all of us needing to remember too, I think, just like how easy it is to make things with the internet look a certain way. There's all sorts of technology and things you can easily just take a clip from something else and say it's from this time period, or put transpose someone's face onto this thing and now this person said this thing
Yeah,
and
you're
it's like
talking, you're talking about all of that. Yep.
it's so crazy. So it's like even when stuff comes out about people now, I don't even believe it. I'm like, how do you know that's just not a setup? How do you know that like someone just doesn't have some personal beef with somebody and they're like, I'm gonna frame them and make them, it's just like it's so hard to know anymore from media what is true. So I'm with you on the not really paying too much attention to it.
Yeah. But unfortunately, I think a lot of people do.
For
And
sure.
it's a little crazy out there right now. It's a little nuts. Um, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm surprised by this, but just the division and the shame and the guilt around personal choices,
Yeah, with the
really
vaccine and all
intense.
that. And yeah. Yeah, I know. It's so funny because it's so easy for me, honestly, to forget because of the, like the Facebook community we surround ourselves with, like, isn't really like that. Like, I live alone. So, like, I'm not around anybody like that. I don't hang out with anybody out here at all, except for one person. And she's like the same that we are in that way. So it's like, I literally forget that this shit even exists until I go on Facebook or like some general thing. And people are like, fuck you for it all, and like all that. I'm just like, oh my God, this is the world. This is the world. Like I forgot about the world, and this is the world, and holy fuck, it's a mess. So yeah.
It's probably better that are in that lifestyle, kind of staying away from it. I mean, yeah, I think you'd be happier that way, not constantly like engaging or putting your energies there. So I totally
Yep.
feel that. Totally feel that. But yeah, it's a crazy time. It's a crazy time.
It is. And it's like, I'm just kind of have that perspective where it's like, what can I do that's helpful? So it's like looking at the news and stuff is not helpful. Arguing with people on Facebook, not helpful. Like none of these things like get us to where we want to be. So like I just wish people would consider that as well. Like, okay, is what I'm doing helpful? Like let me look beyond my emotional reaction and beyond all this. But I think that's also part of the thing as well, is like aren't all the people that are reacting kind of this way people that haven't been doing self-work, so they don't even know how to get to the point of seeing beyond the emotional reactions because they're so in it, and this is like their catalyst for that ego work that they haven't been doing. I don't know, it's just.
So would you say, like, for people that are watching this, would you say that that's the most helpful thing that they can do for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like one of the most, I guess there's probably a plethora of things, but definitely like I think being compassionate and kind and empathetic and like practicing actual empathy and not just like throwing that word around. Like actual empathy is putting yourself in someone's actual shoes as if you were them, not you yourself putting yourself in their shoes as yourself. So like having empathy for people that choose to get a vaccine is like thinking about why someone would want to get a vaccine. People that are afraid of death, people that have weakened immune systems, all that kind of thing. And it's like, if we're not being empathetic, then we're not able to understand people. And if we're not understanding people and relating to them, then it's creating more alienation, more separation, all of these things. So I think empathy is a big part of it. And then the other part is, just looking at your emotional reactions and your own self, like before. And I had to do years of this because I was super, like, you can tell when I'm talking, I'm like, blah, 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 So, like, of course, as much as I am this way in a positive way, I can be like that on the other spectrum, So I've had to work a lot on my own, and I have used Facebook for shadow work so much over the years, being like, wait, why am I commenting this? Why am I engaging? Because I used to not, I'd just be like, let me just blah, blah, but you have to like get to a point where you're not just vomiting everywhere on everybody all the time. It's not cute.
Right. So I love how you talk about empathy. I would love to do like our little role play with you if we could about what empathy actually looks like. So you can pick what side you want to be on. Do you want to be the one going through the challenging thing, or you want me to?
I'll go through the challenging thing.
You're going through the challenging thing. So
yeah.
All right. So I've just listened to you and you've told me about this challenging situation. An appropriate response with empathy would be, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I hear that it sounds really tough what you're going through, and that must be so challenging. You must be feeling so much right now. And I'm really sorry. And let me know if there's anything I can do to support you. That's empathy. That's what empathy is. Not coming in or saying, like, trying to fix it, like, oh, well, have you tried this? Or maybe you should have said it like this to that person. No.
Yeah. And that just pushes people away too, because it's like when people want those answers and kind of things, they'll ask you, at least in my experiences, people will be like, what do you think? Or what advice do you have? If someone's in an emotional state, it's not the time to be like, let me put my fix it hat on. And like, it's not the place, not the place.
It's not. It's really not. Like no unsolicited advice. Like we need to trust that people know what they want. And if they want your advice, they'll ask for it. And you know, I've come across some, well, let's just say I know some people in my life who really struggle with this.
I do
And
too.
you know, they're like, well, I'm not just gonna like sit there and like I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna let you know how I feel. It's like, okay, like where is that coming from though? That's your ego, like thinking that you know better and wanting to be right and all this stuff. And it's like, no, we just have to, empathy and compassion. It's like dropping your stuff goes away and it just becomes about supporting that other person how they need to be supported.
Yeah, in that moment. Exactly. Exactly. And I think too, like even and then taking it even to like a deeper level as well, it's like having empathy for those people is understanding like that they're like they just in their mind it's like, well, I just need to express myself and you're just limiting my expression and I'm just trying to help and all this stuff. And so like empathizing with them because I've had to do that, like too, you know, empathizing with them, I'm like, okay, I can understand from your perspective why it feels like you aren't being heard or you're not allowed to express yourself or like those sorts of things. So I do feel too like there is that balance that's needed there because there's so many situations in life that are so relative and it's so hard to like paint with a broad brush. And I know in my own life, from my own experiences, there have been times where I literally, my ego was like, dude, you're not being empathetic. This isn't what I want to hear or whatever. But I would remember what they would say. And then later I would look back on it and be like, wow, like that was exactly like actually helpful. It just wasn't the right timing. But because I had, you know, so it's like, I think too, it's looking at it like from that perspective too, like to not judge people for their behavior, and which I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying like to not judge people for their behavior in those moments too, because there is a higher level to that and like why they're doing that sometimes too. So
Absolutely. Life is complicated sometimes.
it is, especially human dynamics. I feel like that's always the running like saying is like life is easy, but humans are difficult, or like, you know, it's like those human dynamics are so challenging. What argument are you going to get into with a tree? Like it's the human dynamic that is
Right.
so.
Because that's really like what the arguments come down to is like how we're relating to each other and how we're communicating to each other, and maybe like my reality doesn't meet your reality. And um yeah, it's very complex. We're these complex multidimensional beings. But yeah, I'd say like timing definitely is important.
For sure.
Like even if like I wanted to, you know, give someone advice, I might, you know, give them a couple days to, you know, process whatever it is they're going through first.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps, you know, that could be a meeting in the middle place.
For sure. Yeah. And then too, sometimes just like you said, looking at where that advice comes from, because there's, you know, there's all different, there's things that, and that too is like part of the complexity is there's sometimes where you get an intuitive hit on something, where at least for me, it's like something comes through me where it's like beyond my own self and it just needs to be said.
Mm-hmm.
But it would look like maybe ego to somebody else if they're not in a place to receive that. But then there is other stuff that literally is just ego, that's judgment and is not this. So it's, I feel like that's another complexity to it too that is interesting.
Yes, yes, it is all interesting. Oh, so interesting. Oh my goodness. Uh
so how are you feeling about like, I guess just where things are for you, right? Like if you were to give like an overall summary of just like how you're feeling, like what would you say? Like just
there's a lot of surrender and trust happening right now. There's a lot of, you know, I know that's not answering the question.
no, that is.
How
No,
I'm
that is.
feeling.
Yeah.
You know, I'm feeling a little lost, to be honest. Feeling a little disconnected, and feeling, I don't know, it's weird. It's this feeling of like, I'm not okay, but I am okay.
Yeah, I know that one.
You're like, I know that one. Um, yeah, so people might hear that and maybe they're like, what in the heck are you talking about? It's like, it's this discomfort, but also knowing, like having this inner knowing that even though it's uncomfortable, it's going to be okay. Like this is,
Totally.
um, so yeah, that's how I'm feeling about it all right now.
That's beautiful. I love that because that just shows just how much trust you really have, because that is kind of like the bottom line of that. It's not okay, but I'm okay is like knowing that in a greater scheme, everything is totally okay and you're always taken care of. And that is the beauty of having that connection to God or the universe or whatever word you want to use, is really knowing that. And it's so interesting too, because it looks, in some ways, you could look at it like we really live in an unsafe world, but it is such a safe world at the same time. So it's really like, it's a beautiful thing to be able to be where you are. And I think that's a really powerful place to be, because I was just having this conversation with a client the other day, actually, about how it's so easy to have faith when everything's like going well. Like, that's not really a testament to anything at all, actually. Like, that's not like, that's easy. So like you're actually really getting that experience to like deepen what you are, like into your power of like, dude, even when it seems like in some ways things might be falling apart, like I'm still like, I still know like that is power. So I'm like, yes, queen. Love it.
Thank
Love
you.
it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we really only have ourselves. Like there's nobody that's gonna ride in and save us, or like that's not gonna happen. So, we have to rely on ourselves in this situation. And we also have the ability and we have the answers. All of it's there. Um,
Yep.
and I think too, when you like explore it to other states of consciousness and other dimensions, and you see that this whole thing that we're experiencing right now is just you know I want to be really careful how I say this. It's it's a temporary experience. It's a little blip, and not that it's not significant, but a lot of it, based off like how our mind works, a lot of it really isn't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's like what's really important, you know um and I think to me right now, this time in my life, it's like what's the most important to me is being happy and
Yes.
in what I'm doing,
I love that.
and yeah, allowing things to fall away that need to fall away. There's this whole I'm reading this book, Women Who Run with Wolves. I don't know if
Oh
you
my
ever
God. That's like the fourth sync of that this week for me. I need to read
Oh, you
that.
need to read
Crazy.
it. But she talks about the life and death process. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's always, or life, death, rebirth. I can't remember how she said it, but there's always this process where when something is being born, something else has to die. That's like natural law. That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I'm looking at it right now, is the things that are falling away are the things that need to die, so that allows the energy and the rebirth for
Beautiful.
the new things to be born and created.
I love that. That's such a beautiful analogy. Yeah, that's so
Yeah,
true. I'm gonna use
it's a
that.
wonderful book. I highly recommend that book to everyone.
Women Who Run with Wolves. Who
Yeah,
do you know
let
who it's
me
by?
let me grab it because I got it
Yeah,
right here.
cool. Awesome. Clarissa Pinkola Este. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think she's written another book too, but I had a good friend of mine had recommended this to me, and yeah, it's a New York Times bestseller. I can't remember when exactly she wrote it. Let's see if it's in here. But she's a straight up like shaman.
Hell yeah, loves it.
Well, she and her writing is it's like so poetic and romantic and elegant. It's like
Ooh, love
not
it.
just telling you things. She's it, it it's almost like it's not that she's not making love to you, but she's, you can just tell that she has a talent with words. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I love that. I'm excited to read it.
Yeah,
It's like,
let's see. Okay, I think it first came out in 1992.
mm-hmm.
Gosh, that's almost 30 years ago.
Yeah, wow, holy shit.
I'm still that person that I think it's still the year 2000s.
Dude, me too. I know, I'm not even in time. I get so confused by that. I'm like, what? 1991 was yesterday. Wait, I wasn't born yesterday, but it was yesterday, right? Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
weird.
And pretty soon it'll be, 2050. And I mean, that's crazy.
I know. I know.
I just, it's so interesting because one question that I've always asked myself that I've been so curious about is like, what is the world going to look like in 2050, or what's that going to be? And with all the stuff that's happening right now, I think it's going to look completely different.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, without a doubt. I feel like whenever I try and tap into it, it's kind of this like, it's like I can see certain things, but then certain things are unknown because it's like they're like I get the energetic sense they're undecided because the collective consciousness is still going through so much and birthing so much that there's certain things that are literally not agreed upon yet. So there's these like blank kind of spaces, which is
Whoa.
really interesting and exciting. Yeah, because you're like, wow, that's like something like I'm feeling in those spaces. That's like a sense of newness. It's like actually something that hasn't been done before, which is so exciting because so much of everything is just repetitions of the past. Like, and it's so like, I don't know if you feel this. I would be curious if you do. I've been feeling recently like everything is just a repeat to the point where it's like driving me insane. Like I can't even talk to people anymore about the same shit. I can't, like, it's just everything's recycled. Like I just feel it so much. It's like so like there's nothing new. I'm like, I'm ready for this.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
so ready.
Yeah.
So
You're
ready.
like, don't even get me started.
So
Yeah.
ready. And yeah, I mean, like you said, it's like we're still working it out. And
Mhm.
that just makes me think like anything is possible.
Yes, totally. I do want to share like one of the things that I did see that I hope is what happens if it is in the highest good, because it seems pretty freaking foolproof and amazing, is that like the energy, the money system is just based on energy and currency, and you read people's hearts, and that's how you figure out their intentions. So it can't be manipulated. So it's a technological system that reads your actual energetics in your heart, and that detects how basically almost like, in alignment with universal law and truth and things that you are. And then that is related to currency and things like that. So, and I wouldn't be surprised by that because there is already so many technological things out there that do measure frequency, electromagnetic frequency, can read hearts and things like that. So it's like, why wouldn't it make sense to connect that to a financial system? That way it can't be manipulated like all of the financial systems have been in the past, because you didn't have like a foolproof system. So
Yeah, so clarifying intention.
mm-hmm.
It's almost like it's similar to like a lie detector test, but it's accurate.
Yes. And so then it's like, oh, if you're wanting funds or whatever to build this amazing community project, and that's really what you're doing, like, of course you're going to get that money. Of course you're going to like get everything you need for that, because it's for the collective. So
That
I
would be
think,
amazing.
yeah, I hope so.
That would be amazing. Oh, it's so exciting. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. So tell us how, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that? And I can add stuff to the description of the video too.
Okay, cool. I'll send you my website link. Definitely you can I'm most active on Facebook, frankly. It's Violet Roig is my last name, Roig. So you can look me up on Facebook. My website's in my bio. That's pretty much the only social media I'm really on at this point. So I'm like, that's it. That's where you're going to find me. So, and my website's linked through there, and I'll send that to you as well.
Okay. And I'll stick that in the description if anybody, wants to connect with you. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. You're awesome. I love you.
Yes, I love you too. Okay.